All right, welcome back, Power Sisters. Dr. Anita Jackson here. I truly hope that you have enjoyed listening in on the conversations that I've been having with our Power Success coaches as well as our Power Circle leaders as we talk about gathering women together for such a time as this and Power Her Place, which we affectionately call the place. This session is me coming in and sharing a little bit about living in overflow. And I hope that what I bring forward, like technically, this is this particular conversation is usually a part of one of my success and momentum masterminds that I've offered. I haven't offered that in a really long time, but I always have this living in overflow session. And I'm going to extract a few key points. I'm probably going to talk about three little key areas that I want to focus on for this conversation with us today. Typically, this is a 2-hour conversation as I go really deep into what does it really mean to live in overflow from a spiritual, from a psychological, as well as from a neuroscience perspective. And I'll definitely touch on a few of those things here today as you begin to prepare yourself for the new year. I have 2 New Years every single year. The first year is a spiritual year, and it starts on my birthday, which is in a few weeks from now. My birthday is November the 15th. And that's when I really tap into the spirit and the energy of who Anita is supposed to be in the new year coming. And I take time to spend time with God in prayer and really listening to my heart to the best of my ability. And I'm asking, what is the new year about? What should I be focusing on? Where should I be placing my time, my energy, and my attention? What needs to be released this year and what needs to be picked up for the next year? And I always take, usually the month of November is or October, sorry, it's very, very reflective as I prepare for the month of November, because this starts my new spiritual year. So what came forward this year is really making a very deep decision, not just an intention, because as much as I think intention has its place, the psychologist in me has witnessed in watching and being around and working with thousands of women that we can get easily distracted from a good intention. But when we make a decision, and that word decision means to reach a definite conclusion, the likelihood of actually experiencing success with it increases. It's a lot higher. So my goal today is to help you make a decision to make living in overflow a non-negotiable for you. That this would be the year you decide, I'm going to show up and live my highest and best version of my life. I'm going to receive everything that God intended for me to have unapologetically. And in order for that to happen, there has to be this shift in so many areas of your life, in your thoughts, in your energy, in your frequency, in your vibration, in how you have been living your life, how you've been having relationships or not. Everything about you needs to elevate to a whole new level so that you can experience a whole new level of success. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is about you taking responsibility to allowing yourself to dream so much bigger than you ever have before. And this is another reason why, I and the executive team wanted to create the place, because in talking to so many women, many of you had phenomenal big dreams and goals and desires, but yet you would cut your legs off or cut your nose to spite your face, if you will, so early on in the process because of fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, or maybe not knowing how. And so I felt God really put it in my heart to create a space and a place where I, for one, can really pour into women without these different types of restrictions or programs. And not that I won't be doing programs in the future, but just doing it very differently and how it aligns with my own heart, soul, and spirit. And so today, as I talk about living in overflow, this is a mini course, because like I said, typically this is a 2-hour session. I'm going to just cover 3 specific things that I want you to be aware of, and I want you to make some decisions on. And then somewhere in there, if you decide you want to be a part of the place, you want to become a member, I specifically will be doing a lot of training on spiritual principles, feminine principles, psychology, obviously with my background from a personal perspective as well as from a business perspective. I have over 32 years of experience on both sides. So and I am, and my team will tell you, I'm and you just heard this from Sharon, I'm very strategic. I get results. And sometimes I have to take a step back, but 9 times out of 10, I make things happen, i.e., this is why this is all coming together. I make things happen. And I help clients make things happen in their life just as well. And it took me a while to really give myself permission to own that that's my superpower, that that's how God created me. This is what I'm on the planet to do, is to help women live their best life without fear. Now, that also meant I had to take responsibility for the parts of my life that I wasn't living my life big or epic or bold. It looked like it on the outside, but behind the scenes, it was a whole nother story. And the past 5 years of my life, probably more specifically the past 11, but definitely the last 5, have been very significant as I've gone through some major losses and major journey. And I'll share more specifics about that in the place. The place is going to be my place as well, to be more vulnerable, to show up and share more of my own story and what I've learned from my story. And being able to say, I don't want to have any restrictions to just sharing my heart, sharing my wisdom, sharing my gifts and talents, sharing my opportunities. Because if you've been in my circle, if you're part of my world, if you've worked with me, I don't mind sharing speaking opportunities, ground floor opportunities. I attract a lot of ground floor opportunities, and some of them have paid off quite well for myself. And others are just building. There's one that I absolutely am freaking in love with, and I want to get as many women to be a part of it as possible. But I know it's going to take some maneuvering. But I'm sharing all that to let you know that the place is going to be your place to receive. And when you allow yourself to master the art of receiving, then that's when you start to operate in overflow. So what is this thing about overflow? Living in overflow. Well, the first thing that I noticed being a therapist, and even in my own life, is sometimes we have the wrong understanding of words. So share below, what's your definition of the words or words living in overflow? And then I want you to break those words apart and say, what's the definition of living? What's the definition of overflow? Based on your own understanding. And not that that's right or wrong, but then once you've written that out, I want to challenge you to go look at the Merriam-Webster dictionary and pull up the actual definitions for those words. And you may be surprised, and I'll share them with you here. You may be surprised that your own definition of living in overflow may not be in alignment with the actual definition of living and overflow. I know mine wasn't. And so I've had to look at my own life, especially this year. 2023 has been a very powerful year because I did a lot of deeper introspective work. And in that, I had to take a lot of responsibility for where I failed myself. Now, when you look at me and you look at my resume, you look at my website, you look at the things that I've accomplished, 9 times out of 10, you wouldn't suspect or expect me to say that I have failed. Because if I run down my resume, you'll hear me say things like, I've got an AA, a BA, 2 masters, I've got my doctorate. I am a best-selling author of at least 9, maybe more books. I don't even know anymore. I have a lot of books under my name. A lot of books. I've been a part of multiple summits that I can't even tell you how many summits I've been a part of. I have hosted multiple summits, probably about 20, this may be 21. I have spoken on very large stages with an audience of 1,000 people, and done that multiple times as well. I've had the opportunity to travel, not necessarily around the world, but I definitely have traveled quite a bit. I have multiple magazines. Started off with a college magazine. I ran that at a state college for several years. And then from there, I launched I Am Enough. And then we did The Unlimited Woman. And now we're on Power Her Success magazine. And then I launched the publishing company, AMJ Productions and Publications. And within all of those things, I end up launching my own podcast that end up opening up a door for me to be on other people's radio show. And then a producer at this particular well-known radio station said, "My gosh, you've got a great voice and you'd be a great radio host. Would you like to do that?" Before podcast kicked in. And I said, sure. So I ended up having my own radio show. And then behind the scenes, he didn't know I was actually working on TV, because I kept hearing God's like, time to go to TV, time to go to TV. I know nothing about TV, but I'm very strategic, and I can figure things out really, really fast. I'm tech savvy, and I'm dangerous. I tell people I'm very dangerous with a little bit of knowledge. I can take that and expand it very quickly, and I can figure out the nuances of stuff pretty quickly. I've always been like that, even as a kid. And so eventually I ended up launching my own online TV show. When they first started, I was part of the pioneer of movement of that coming forward. We started off with Outrageous Success TV. I knew nothing, but I was able to figure things out along the way very, very quickly. Did that for 2 years. And that put me on multiple stages. It got me my own online TV channel with a major online TV digital network that they're even now still reaching out and going, "Oh, we still have your show on our network. Have you ever thought of coming back?" And I'm like, "That's so funny you should say that, but yes, but I want my own network now." So lots of big dreams. And like you heard Sharon say, I don't know how to think small. I only know how to think big. But yet, in the midst of thinking big and going after big things, this year I realized that, and you heard me say early on, that as much as I've accomplished all these things, I was still hiding behind the successes of these projects. Anita never in my entire life felt safe enough to fully be seen, heard, valued, or celebrated ever, despite all the things that I've accomplished in my life. If I share a little bit about my childhood, I love my mom, I love my brother, I love my family, but I also came from a dysfunctional family. Most of us have. It's not that big of a deal. But I also have in my story coming from domestic violence, coming from alcoholism, myself, as well as with my own father, dealing with abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. The story goes on. I've got all those things there. And what those things did indirectly was make me feel as if I had to prove that I was of value through my works. So I conditioned myself to work really well. And in that, I did experience overflow, but the overflow never sustained itself, right? It came, it went. And maybe that's part of overflow. It comes and it goes. But it's been the past couple of years, this year specifically, where I believe God started to take me on a journey, a Shiro's journey, really, of rediscovering what it meant to be Anita without the masks, without the titles, without the roles, without the accomplishments, without the expectations of church or family or friends, or even my own expectations that I had to be so much better. And I will tell you, I'm not even done yet. I'm still on this journey. I have not arrived by any means. There's still some things that I know need to come forward. to me, in me, as me, and through me. And in order for that to happen, sometimes you have to die and things have to be released in order for you to go through your phoenix rising or your rebirthing, as we talked about with Bevna. And I had to go through that journey myself. And a part of that, and what's coming out or what's coming forward out of that, is this decision to make 2024 my Living in Overflow year. And it is a decision. So let me share a few of the principles or areas I want you to pay attention to in regards to making this decision for yourself. Because if you have, let me come back and say it a different way. I believe unapologetically that every single woman has the gift of foresight. Every single woman on this planet has been designed spiritually and biologically. I'm not going to go into that now, but there are biological, chemical indicators that prove that a woman has within her intuition, within her chemical hormonal makeup, foresight, the ability to see the future. People call it psychic. People call it, visions. They've got downloads, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what the word is. The truth is you have that gift. Whether or not you trust that gift or allow that gift to come forward is a whole nother conversation. But you've got that gift. My gift is very, 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 very strong. I trust that part of me profoundly. Although there have been times in my life where I've questioned it, I've not listened to it, and it has definitely caused results because I didn't listen to it and I didn't trust it. But what I can tell you about what's happening now is I think our world is, we're going through another reset because the first 2 years, let's say 2020 to 2022, although it shook us up, woke us up, made us really reevaluate where we are and what we're doing in our lives, our human brain has 3 focuses. And what it focuses on is avoiding pain, conserving energy, and seeking pleasure. And when we've gone through some sort of a setback or some sort of a loss, it's going to revert to old behaviors. And so with all the trauma that happened around the pandemic, we're heading back to old behaviors. And those old behaviors will condition us to live a limited life because they're old behaviors, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and all those things that go with it. So I believe very strongly that there is going to be another opportunity to reset and come back to alignment and center with God, with source, with spirit, with God, and with our higher selves to such a deep, visceral, cellular degree that it's requiring us to literally change our lives. And so in the conversation I just had with Sharon, you heard her say that what helped her begin to design her beautiful life is she had to really look at who she is and where she is, and to make some powerful decisions on what to change. And that's the first piece of living in overflow. So let me back up a little bit and go from a definition perspective. So living is actually a verb. It's an action word. And its very first definition, if you go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, will tell you it's about action and functioning. Action and functioning. So when you look at your life, I want you, well, let me give you the other definition. The other definition that I didn't memorize is living in the motion of nature, living in the motion of nature, right? So that's the very first definition of the word living. Action, functioning, or living in the motion of nature. All right, so then I want you to look at your life and go, am I functioning in the highest level of who I'm designed to be? Do I give myself real credit for my gifts, my talents, my intuition, my wisdom, my experiences? Am I really owning that and functioning according to that truth? When I looked at my life, I had to say no. And that no hit me really hard because I put so much of my doingness in front of me, and it was so much a part of my identity that I didn't realize that Anita wasn't existing at all. She was just functioning, but functioning from a busyness perspective, functioning from a project perspective, functioning from a here's what you need to do rather than be. And of course, like everybody else, I was saying the same thing. We're beings, we're not doing, we're human beings, we're not human doings, and all that kind of fun stuff. But sometimes we don't go deep enough into it to really discover how much it may be holding us back and not allowing God to show up more powerfully in us and not allowing us to receive the things that God has intended for us. So I had to look at my own life and really take responsibility for the fact that despite all the successes I had and was constantly bringing forward, I was miserable. I was depressed, angry, overweight, overworked, underpaid, although I did a lot of work around the money thing. And sometimes it's hard to kind of see that your mind may not let you go there to some degree as a defense mechanism. You'll skate around it rather than hitting the bullseye and actually dealing with the issue. So one of the things that I really started to pay attention to was, okay, if I'm really functioning and living really well, then there are certain indicators to that. And one of the strongest indicators from my humble perspective, this is just Anita saying this to you, is money is a very it's an indicator of what's going on in the inside of me. So if I was functioning really well and if I was operating at my highest level, then money would be flowing to me easily, effortlessly, and continuously, because money answers all things. And money, if it answers all things, it's answering my energetic makeup. So one of the ways for me to discover if I really was functioning at a higher level for me was looking at my relationship with God and looking at my money. Those are the two things that were very important. So I was too scared to look at my relationship with God. So I looked at my relationship with money first. And what I found was that when I went to my Square account and I looked at all of my transactions from 2018 to 2022, those years specifically, because I made a huge decision I was going to change this in 2021, and it showed up in 2022, definitely showed up this year dramatically. It's a huge jump. I was hitting the same amount over and over and over again. Now, there's a whole nother conversation that I can have about set points, but you'll get that when you join the place. I'll actually talk to you about what set points are and how they're probably impacting your success in life, your relationships, your money, your health, your wellness right now without you even knowing it. And they've been there for years until you make a conscious decision to change them, because you can change set points, but sometimes it's a little challenging because you have to act and have, it's not only a mindset, it's a behavioral, it's an action, it's an energy, frequency, and vibration. It's a holistic operation, if you will, that you need to pay attention to in order to have the changes that you want in changing your set point. So for me, my transactions showed that I was hitting a certain level every single month, give or take a few $200 to $500 every single year. And it was in 2022 that I decided, nope, I'm done. And like, this needs to break. I'm giving and I'm pushing and I'm working so dang hard and I'm not getting the results that I want. Why am I doing this? And this is really when I even started to look at my own business and going, I'm doing everything the coaches tell you to do, and I don't like it. I just stopped liking it. It wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I just shut down. So when the pandemic hit and I had the opportunity to be still and really look at everything, that's when I realized, yep, I don't like anything in my life and I need to change it. So again, in regards to living in overflow, the first thing you need to look at is do an assessment of who you are, where you are, and where the blocks are. Is there a dam, a flow that's blocked right now that you're not experiencing peace? That's the number one way that you can tell if something's out of alignment. There's no peace. And if you don't feel peace around your money, if you don't feel peace around your relationships, if you don't feel peace around your success, your experience, whatever, then that's a strong indicator there's a block somewhere, because you were not designed to not live outside of peace. Did that come out right? You weren't designed to live in struggle. You weren't designed. You'll never convince me of that. We may allow ourselves to do that and to have that as a part of our dysfunctional makeup, but we weren't designed for it. And so in living in overflow, you've got to be willing to do a hard look at where you've abandoned yourself, where you've denied yourself, when you've criticized yourself, when you've rejected yourself, when you've been in fear and worry and anxiety and doubt. And for me, as I said earlier, if you were here at our morning session, I said I would have never attached those words to my identity ever, because I grew up in a home where because you were a Christian, you were different, you were strong, you were powerful. And in a lot of those ways, I still agree that those things are true, but at the same time, there wasn't harmony in being able to balance the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. And I think a lot of that had to do with I was so good at doing that for everybody else as a marriage and family therapist and as a organizational psychologist, taking care of everyone else's good, bad, and ugly, that I denied my own. It was easier to take care of someone else than to deal with my own issues and my own pain, my own hurt, my own rejection. So once I was lovingly made to do it, I did not willingly do it. I was lovingly made to do it. And what I mean by that is that circumstances and situations happened in my life where I had to stop and look at what I've allowed to exist in my life, and what I saw didn't align with my bigger dreams, goals, and desires. It just didn't work. And I had done this to myself. So in taking responsibility for it by assessing everything and making some changes, what came forward after that was I had unconsciously made a decision that my fear, anxiety, worry, and doubt, and whatever else word you want to use, had more power than my faith in God and my faith in myself. So point number 2 is, what decision have you made that has prevented you from living in the overflow that God has ordained for your life? Remember, that word decision means to reach a definite conclusion, whether you consciously did it or subconsciously did it. Somewhere along the line, you've made a decision to have the experiences you're having right now. You have made a decision. You have said yes to, consciously or unconsciously, to struggle financially, to be alone. Woo, that was a deep one. That is a deep one. To put on weight, to not show up in your business, to not allow yourself to receive help or even ask for help. You've made some sort of a decision that has prevented you from experiencing what's divinely, rightfully yours. Now, the beautiful thing about this is if you made a decision not to, you can make a decision to change it completely so that you can actually operate at a higher level. Now, that decision doesn't come without its own, the decision to change this and to step into becoming more of the woman you desire to be and having the life you desire to have and having the experience you so desperately desire to experience doesn't come without its own challenges. Because if you have been alive for the past 30, 40, 50, 60 years, because I'm, pushing against 60 pretty soon myself, and recognizing, boy, that's a lot of years that has been compiling of me thinking and feeling and behaving a certain way. So it's going to take some dramatic experiences and maybe some hard experiences to shift that. Not that it has to be that way all the time, but sometimes it does. But what I've learned is that when I'm having to make a decision to change my life, to reconnect to my value, to redefine my values, redefine my standards, I recognize that if I'm alone in trying to walk this thing through, my gorgeous, beautiful, powerful brain and 60 years of experience is going to have much more power in me going backwards than me going forward. This is when I started to see that I can't do this alone. And originally, that thought of I can't do this alone was about building this kind of community, building the speaking opportunities. But as I was going through the journey of trying to build this, I started to really see how Anita had to be transformed in order to have the capacity to even manage or handle the bigness of what my life was calling for. Um, and so this is where I'm inviting you to take some time between now and the beginning of the new year to really do some deeper internal assessment work, and for you to make a decision that if I really want my life to dramatically be changed, I want my money to be dramatically changed, I want my love life to be dramatically changed, I want my health and wellness to be dramatically changed, you have got to do this in relationship with someone else. You cannot do this by yourself. You cannot do this by yourself. You cannot do this by yourself. Otherwise, your beautiful and gorgeous brain is going to keep you in the same place you're in now because that set point's already there and you've already established these belief systems. Even if on one side you're saying, I know this truth, and I hope you're allowing yourself to be open to say, let me see a different light. God, show me a different way to see this. Because the moment you say, I already know this, you're shutting yourself off from a new opportunity to see things from a different light and a new opportunity to make some decisions to move forward. So let's kind of start talking about the third piece. But I want to, before I go to that third piece, I want to talk about overflow. So if living, the word living actually means action and functioning, and you're going to do a deep dive and assessment of, am I acting and functioning according to who God has created me to be? So let me sit there for just a second before we go forward, because I feel like I need to. I believe that every single woman on this planet, all of you already have within you a dream, a goal, a desire of who you really want to be and the life you really want to live. And it probably haunts you. It's probably on your mind. A lot of the things that you're probably doing now is in some way in pursuit of accomplishing that, fulfilling that, making that a reality for yourself. So you have this big dream, goals, and desires, and that was placed there by God, and your higher self, your spirit, the angels around you, your ascended masters are constantly trying to get your attention so that you can move into making this your truth and your reality. But what happens to our human psyche and our beautiful, gorgeous brain, if you'll remember me saying early on, your physical brain has certain structures that focuses on, without going into the science of it, let's just say it's just designed, it's wired, if you will, to focus on avoiding pain, conserving energy, or seeking pleasure. And 9 times out of 10, 80% of your brain is going to be focusing on avoiding pain. So if your future, the goal, dreams, and desires that you have for yourself is really big and you can't figure out or haven't been able to figure out how to accomplish it, we will unconsciously and unintentionally sabotage ourselves and abandon that dream because the brain says, we don't know if you're going to be safe, and it's taking way too much energy trying to figure this stuff out, so it just shuts down. So the next thing you know, you're in the same spot over and over again, having the same experiences over and over again, and you're not moving forward. And the reason that happens 9 times out of 10 is because you're trying to do it by yourself based on the old things, thoughts, feelings, motions, and behaviors that you've already established rather than being in community. When I finally started to ask for help and ask God to bring me the right women in my life who could really speak to my life and help me change, 5 freaking amazing women showed up. More women showed up, but 5 stayed constant. And these are the women who are now my executive team, in addition to a few other women outside of my executive team who are part of my life just as well. And so I've got right now about 10 women who know me exceptionally well and will hold me accountable to my own crap in a heartbeat, lovingly. And I hold them accountable too. So it's a two-way street, not a one-way street. But it was in allowing myself to have that kind of relationship with these women that my life dramatically started to change. And even now I'm in a newer, more advanced community, I guess you could say, and I can see the next level of my life. And 2024, my entire focus is living in overflow. So I'm kind of talking about the shadow side of overflow right now, in a sense of what is it? And you can't have it without knowing the dark, without the light, right? So in talking about overflow, the actual word means to be covered with, to be covered with. What are you covering yourself with in regards to experiencing the kind of life and success that you desire? Another word or another definition for overflow is flowing over the brim, right? So what are we being covered with? Are you covered with fear, worry, doubt, anxiety? Remember, there's a dark side to every positive thing. So living in overflow sounds so positive, but there's a dark side to it. And you can't really allow yourself to live in the fullness of what God has for you in overflow until you deal with the pieces where you blocked that off, where you've prevented yourself from actually allowing yourself to fully have it, fully and completely, if that makes any kind of sense right there. So my hope for you is that you would do a huge assessment between now and next year so that you can say, if living means me acting and functioning at my highest level, let me define that as deeply as I can. And then the second piece is, let me make a decision on let me make a decision, reach a definite conclusion is what I'm trying to say, on what will it take for me to dramatically change your life. So let me kind of stop here and share a little story. So remember I told you a little bit ago that I looked at my money, because in my mind, that was one of the ways that I could tell if I was really in flow with God and in flow with my own self. And I shared with you that I was consistent, making the same amount of money for really was a lot longer than that, but for sure, I'll say the last 5 years was pretty consistent, give or take a few, $200 to $500, and then I made a decision to change that. And it was so strange to me because I realized in 2022. I pretty much let go of my whole business. I just stopped doing everything. I didn't even strategically plan because I had gotten in the habit of every single year. I come up with a new strategic plan for the year because it helped me stay on track and help me accomplish and help me know what I was supposed to be doing. And I remember I was living with a roommate at the time, and we were sitting outside on the porch looking at a tree that for whatever reason was shaped like a heart. We even asked the owners that they do that on purpose. They're like, no, this tree's been like that since they bought the house. So it was shaped like a heart. So someone had maybe trained it to grow like a heart. And I'm staring at it and just staring at it. And in that, I just decided, what does my heart desire? And at that moment, my heart desired peace. I just want things to be peaceful and easy. I don't want to worry about anything else. Now, that was also the year where I had a lot of losses. Like almost every month, something was going crazy and a lot of drama around my life. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted peace so much. So I decided to, in that moment, to just stop everything. Like, I'm just going to quit. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's going to happen next. And God, I'm surrendering fully and completely to you because this is not living. I'm depressed. I'm in pain. I've had chronic pain from a car accident that I had. And it just wasn't It wasn't good. So to make this long story very short, as I started to pursue and make the decision to just be in peace and only follow my heart's decision. So what came forward out of that was I'm only going to do what my heart wants me to do. And I need to have a physiological charge on whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And then if I feel that charge, if I honor that charge in my heart, then I'm expecting the results to be good. So in using that as my plumb line, I remember the word plumb line. A plumb line, if you don't know what it is it's a tool that a plumber, not a plumber, a construction worker typically uses to measure if something is level, right? So my plumb line was peace. And so strangely enough, I made more money doing nothing that year than I've made in 5 years. I had actually doubled my money during that year. So whatever money I was making then, I doubled it. And it was the most confusing thing to me because I felt like I didn't do anything. I'm like, I didn't have a whole lot of clients. I wasn't promoting any projects. I just was listening to my heart. And that's really when I started to begin to experience living in overflow. And I have to admit, I don't even know if I recognized it at that time. I saw that something was different, but I didn't recognize it as a part of the overflow because I was being living to my truth. And what was very different at that time is I had left living by myself and I was living with someone else, a group of other women, and I had surrounded myself with more women. So that was a huge indicator that when I had the right community around me and I was connecting to them on a regular basis, unconsciously it was creating something and changing something in me. And this wasn't just a network session. This wasn't just a what do you call it? A B&B connection. It wasn't a summit that I was attending. It wasn't a workshop. It was real, honest relationship. It was real, honest sisterhood, having deep conversations, taking off our mask, everything you've heard myself and all the speakers talking about today, and you're going to hear that more tomorrow. That's when I started to notice the change, and that's where my money started to rise. And then this year, I went even beyond that. It's now $30,000 more than what I made even then. And I have some very specific intentions of what I want to have accomplished by the end of this year. So I'm calling that in as well, and calling it in from a place of my overflow, because now I understand overflow for me, and outside of the definition here, is how do I fill myself up to the brim? And filling myself up to the brim and then overflowing from that came from me being honestly true with myself and what do I really want? And as much as I am self-aware and as much as I am intentional about my dreams, my goals, and desires, I recognized that I had done all that based on my calling and my purpose, not based on who just Anita is. So I had to ask myself over and over and over again, literally for the past probably year and a half, Anita, what do you want? Anita, what do you want? Anita, what do you want? What's going to make you live your best life? What's going to make you feel fulfilled and satisfied? What's going to really turn you on? What's going to help you be happy? And I thought I could answer that right away. Now, I can tell you from an external perspective, I can quote that to you in a heartbeat. Car, house, travel, all that kind of stuff, easy. But that's not what my spirit was asking me. And that's not what your spirit is asking you either. They definitely want, your spirit wants you to have nice things, live in a nice house, have a nice car, feel safe, feel protected, travel the world, have great food, have great relationship, have great sex. Absolutely. But living in overflow is so much deeper than just what happens on the outside. It's about being really at peace with everything in your life. And I truly believe that God wants you to finally just go, oh, yes, I'm at peace about all of it. And I'm clear and very confident and very unapologetic about what my next 50 years of my life is going to be like. And I'm no longer going to be afraid to pursue it, to declare it, to decree it, to ask for it, to put all of my action, my functioning, my heart, my soul, my spirit towards it. And if, let's say, there's someone in here who has a strong desire to be a billionaire so that she can be philanthropic, the place is going to be your place to say that out loud and have women go, girl, I am right there with you. So often we as women have these really big, bold, and audacious dreams, but we keep them to ourselves for fear of what someone else is going to say. Not at the place. And if you want to live in overflow, you need to have a community that's going to literally call that out of you and then give you the tools, the resources, and the opportunity to bring that forward within 365 days. I'm going to be bold enough to say that. So if I were to wrap this particular session up, because in a couple of minutes, some of the other leaders are going to join me on another link. I'm going to close this out and have other women join us, and we're going to close out today. I want to powerfully invite you to really look at the areas of your life where you have unconsciously limited yourself. You have unconsciously abandoned your own dreams, goals, and desires, where you have unconsciously allowed yourself to settle for the status quo. You've allowed yourself to be comfortable, maybe a little bit too comfortable, with just existing and not living. And when you give yourself permission to really look at that, I also want you to sit with what decision, what conclusion do I need to reach in order to make some dramatic changes for my life in 24. And then that last piece of living, experiencing overflow is, how are you actively going to pursue it? And I hope the first thing you say is, I can't do this alone. I need other women around me. I need other sisters around me. I need the right sisters around me to help me make this happen, to hold me accountable, to keep me on track, to keep speaking these truths to me until I get it, until I become so convinced of it, I almost have a little attitude about it. This is what the place is all about. This is why my executive team and I, you'll hear our story, that we've been, working on this for years now, 3 years now, with our own ups and downs, backwards, forward. But what has stayed constant is the sisterhood. What has stayed constant is the decision to make our own lives priority, and then from our overflow, being able to really give to the women who are going to be showing up here at the place. I am so convinced that next year is the year that windows and doors and highways and byways are going to open dramatically and flow towards every woman who says, I'm showing up without fear, without apology, and I'm going to allow myself to receive everything that God has ordained for my life, period. And once that becomes true, I'm in a coaching program right now where the coach is kind of confirming what I've been sensing and feeling in my own life. And sometimes you just need someone else to tell you it's okay to be that bold. And as much as I do this for other women, I needed that for myself. So being in this coaching program has helped me go, yeah, it's time. It's time to make this decision. Like, even as I'm saying this to you, my whole body is tingling right now. I can feel the energy and the power of this decision, of this conviction, of this truth that I'm pursuing for my own life, is to live in overflow. Because the other side of that is, I want to function and have the action and experience of living and not just doing. I want to experience the flow of being over the brim, right? Having more than enough, being covered with joy and happiness and love and wealth and abundance and money, and that allows me to live my best life and then be philanthropic and supporting the lives of others. I want to create this space within the place that if there is a woman who's struggling, we've got the foundation. We would make it more a fiduciary foundation. So it has the ability to support other women. From me in the place, you're going to learn a lot about creating multiple streams of income. You're going to get so many opportunities to invest in your life, in business, in opportunities to take your life to the next level. You're going to learn so much about how to change your brain so that you can change your life. You're going to learn so much about what it means to realign and connect to God, source, and spirit in a much deeper and richer way. You're going to connect to what does it really mean to be so boldly fearless and unlimited that literally God can flow through me like water. And it changes the lives of all those around me easily, effortlessly, and continuously. And so I hope that what I just shared, just for the moment, causes you to say, there's still enough time to make a new decision in 2023 to set me up well, or at least put me on the right track for a new experience in 2024. And then when you decide to become a member of the place, again, you can, if you want to join now, you can go to powerherplace.com. I'll share a lot more details about it tomorrow. And you will be on the road to literally changing your life so it's unrecognizable. And I'm going to be bold enough to tell you, there's at least 100 women that I absolutely know without a doubt in my mind who are going to step into a high 6 or 7 figure lifestyle and business for 2024 because they're part of the place. Why? Not because you're going to learn all the mechanics of how to do that, but you're going to do such a deep and profound healing and inner work that it almost becomes easy to have that because you now have cleared everything out within you, and you now have the capacity and the ability to expand to receive that in. Because here at the place, your job is just to receive from all of the coaches or all the circle leaders, receive from all the training, receive at all the retreats that we're going to have, receive from the products, the programs, the networking, the sessions, the circles. All of that is about you receiving. And if you master receiving, the rest of it becomes easy. All right, so let me get off here so I can come back in at 4:00 with all the amazing speakers that we had today so we can close out our session. Just so that you'll know, I hope and I pray, I have prayed for every single one of you who are here, who are registered and who will be watching the replay. My heart's desire is that what you've heard from me today and what you've heard from every one of our speakers is activating within you a desire to find your place at the place, your sisterhood, like real, authentic sisterhood. I got your back. I know that our Power Circle leaders and our Power Success coaches, we've got your back. And for such a time as this is your time to experience what God has designed you to experience. Nothing but success, happiness, joy, love, and all those things that go with it. All right, with so much love for each and every one of you, and I look forward in about, give us another 5-8 minutes. We'll come back in here and close off our day. Probably won't take any longer than maybe 15-20 minutes. And then I'll let you know what we're doing tomorrow. And then we will close out this day as we gather together once again for such a time as this, as women making a decision to be seen, to be heard, to be valued and celebrated for all of who you are. Much love, and see you in a couple minutes. Take care, everybody.